Hello, everybody. My story, very normal people. Today in our studio, we have actually, it's not here, it's online, as you already know, with Skype, with Zoom. So we have Anne Charles. She is the writer of 33, 35, whatever, so many books.
Over 30.
So, Anne, welcome to our show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So, Anne, so can you tell us something about yourself?
Okay. Well, I'm 50, so that's wide open for a lot of things to tell you about me. But let's stick to writing. I've been writing since the late 90s. But in the meantime, I also went to college, finished college, and I did the 10-year plan for a 4-year degree. So I took it slow and easy. And I worked through it. I married, had a couple kids, worked a full-time job as a technical writer. So all the time throughout that, I was busy writing any chance I could, staying up late. There was no such thing as a weekend. It just meant more writing time and just trying to get a good handle on writing books and how to tell a good story. So I didn't publish until 2011. And it was not my first book that was the first book released. It was the seventh book, I believe, that actually was the first one published. It had won several awards, national awards. And so that was the first one out. And I really intended to go with one of the big publishers. And I had been shopped and gone up the chain through that publishing house, one of them, over a year's time. It takes a long time, until the very end when they said, well, we love the story, but marketing doesn't think it'll sell well enough. So that was a real crushing thing. Took a good bottle of wine to make it feel better. And then went forth and formed a small press at that time and released the book, as more of a small press book instead of with a big press, because I really felt that there was an audience for the story. And that was my Deadwood Mystery series. And it has done well. It's been amazing for me how well that book is. And it's a wonderful thing to get to smile and say, oh, marketing was wrong. This was a big seller, and has been and still is. So that was kind of the start of it all. And for 3 years, I was this small press where we had some other authors, but I soon learned that I couldn't do both. I couldn't be an author and a publisher. It's just too much work. So I chose author and stepped away from the small press and went indie. And that's where I'm at today. Still publishing, still doing it all on my own and enjoying it.
Okay. So I will start with a question. Was it for you difficult to write the ideas and the thoughts and everything that you have to? Was it difficult for you to come to start writing?
I didn't intend to write for a living. That wasn't the goal when I was younger. I had all kinds of big dreams that I was going to do for a living, and writing was not one, but I always loved to read. And I would get frustrated with endings that maybe I didn't like. So it really started with me rewriting endings to books that I liked, most of the way through, and writing the ending that I wanted. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it grew to the story, and I hand wrote my first story on a piece of notebook paper, just pages and pages of paper. And that was really horrible. It was a horrible story, but I finished it. I got to the end, and I did fix the beginning and submit it to several places, and they were very kind and said, we think you have potential, but not this. So I listened to them when they said, don't stop writing, whether they meant for me to do that or not. But I did listen, and I kept going. So, yeah, it was hard. It was hard for me to learn the craft. It wasn't a quick, I wrote a couple books, boom, and I was in, it was book 5, I think I was writing, or 6, when I finally really felt like I had more control of what was coming out rather than kind of like a fire hose,
Mhm.
just, So it took years of practicing and practicing to make that happen.
Okay. So, when you write in your book, I mean, you have written 32 books, you said, right?
Right.
So, in your books, do you write about, I'll say it, what is your favorite subject to write about?
That's tough because I tend to mix my genres.
Mhm.
I have a little bit of everything. There's mystery, there's supernatural, there's adventures and quests that occur. There's hidden treasures. There's a lot of humor, and there's a little bit of romance often. So I guess humor is the thing that's really strong throughout all the stories, and that I like to write. I love to write a scene where I'm chuckling as I, type on the keys, and every time I reread it, it makes me smile or laugh. I love that kind of stuff. And I think in part it's because I really want to write stories that make other people chuckle, smile, laugh, lift them up a little bit out of, depression, sadness, or just a hectic day that they want to get a relief and escape into a story that makes them smile. That's my kind of book that I like to read. That's the kind of book that I tend to write. Not that I don't like a good scary story or, adventures or some serious drama, but I do tend to lean toward comedy myself. So that's what I try to focus on and include throughout the stories.
Where do you find yourself in all your books more than the other books, let's say, because you have something there in each of them, right? From your character,
Right,
from your
right.
like and dislike, all. So, what is the book that you have more from yourself?
It's it's got to be it has to be the comedy, the humor. It's my sense of humor. So a lot of times if somebody new who's just read through a bunch of my books writes and says they laughed out loud, they loved the story, it was so funny, and I often reply and tell them it's so great to meet someone who shares my sense of humor. Because of course, if you have a different sense of humor than I do, a very different, you're not going to find them funny. It's just that's how people work. We either gel or we don't. So I would say that with all the characters, even the secondary characters that are, their humor, their sense of humor, it's things that I find funny, the things that make me chuckle, and that's coming out. Oddly enough, one of my sisters years ago said, "You were never funny as a kid. I don't get this." And I said, "Maybe I was, but I was just being quiet because I was the youngest." But yeah, I love that. I love when a book makes me smile and laugh, and I try to put that in, to all the stories too. And I like to put that in as well.
Okay. Now, when you find, I mean, you have something you're inspired. Let's say you start writing and you go to the publisher, and then after that, what's next? What is the biggest problem? The marketing is the biggest problem. How do you see in your experience?
Yes, I would say marketing is definitely the biggest struggle. How to reach new readers. There's so many wonderful books out there. There's so many writers. How do you stand out and not in order to get attention, and not just from other authors and stories, from Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever streaming, Disney, whatever streaming service is out there, whatever, you're fighting for attention from so many things. I know podcasts, listen, there's more and more people that I'm meeting because of podcasts. They routinely listen to them, or true crime podcasts. So how do I get you to take a break from whatever you're doing otherwise and give my stories a chance, whether it's audiobooks, because I do have all of them in audio, or ebooks, or the printed book? How do I get you to give me a chance? And that's a really hard thing, in my opinion, to do. And it's not, yes, you can put an ad with a certain service that makes your book out there quick and you seem to, sell or give away a lot. But that doesn't mean they'll actually read it. A lot of times, like certain ads where they can get your book for free or 99 cents, it goes on their Kindle where it dies a slow death, waiting to be read. So how do you get them to actually give you their time? And I think that's a really tough thing to a thing to figure out and a thing to be successful at.
Mhm. And if you see it carefully, it's like there haven't been any time with more books than now that have been
Right.
written, because it's like the past. You have everything. You have the collections from any country.
Right.
And
Right.
what I have seen now is like years ago, we used to have, let's say, the classics like Shakespeare and a few others, Goethe, and some others. But
Right.
now it's like nobody knows about them at all. It's like,
Yes.
how say it? There is no. Uh, I think so. I'm not sure. I'm just saying that. So maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't see any. How say it? A kind of a classical writers anymore.
Right. It's more what's going to sell.
Mhm.
What's going to and it's not just coming from an indie author such as myself who, this is what we do for our family to pay the bills. This is how we make our living, is to write these stories and put them out there. It's also from the big publishers. If, I have many friends that are published through large publishers, and if the first book doesn't sell through enough, if the second book is a bomb, it's publishers are always, of course, looking for the next huge, Harry Potter or, a big name that sells a lot. And if you're not that person, if you don't sell that well, then the marketing money is going to go elsewhere from them as well if you continue to get contracts. So it seems like so many people are trying to write to the market rather than writing the stories that maybe they used to that tend to be more, end up as classical stories. If you think about Tolkien and Lord of the Rings and how much time he put into those stories to build them,
Mm.
there, how many people have the time, can take the time to do that and have the patience? We're such a, everything has to happen now. So, he took so long to build that world and those stories and the whole thing and made it amazing. I don't know that there are a lot of people out there with that time or who are willing to take that time to do that. The Deadwood series that I talked about is 12 books deep now, plus 5 short stories that kind of go along beside it that tell some backstory. That's taken me since I started writing that in 2008. So that tells you we're at 2022. I'm not a fast writer. I can't whip the stories out. And they're long books. They're 120,000 words or 130. So it's been, you do the math, since 2008, and I have 12 books available. I that's a long time, and a lot of writers don't want to take as many years as I have to do a series. I just have kids, and you want to spend time with your family and have some of that as well. If not everybody, but I do. So that's my thought on why there's not so much like there used to be. There's deadlines. Come on, hurry up. Even those of my friends that are with, like I said, bigger publishers, there's deadlines. They've got, you're slotted. And if you miss that spot, your book will be put back a year to 2 years to get to the next opening. There's a lot of time pressure on authors.
So you have had uh, readers that have come to you and they have asked from your signature and they have said any compliment for sure. So what is the best compliment that you have taken up to now? Somebody has
Oh,
said to you.
That's really hard. One of them, one that I've had a few times is maybe their mother was passing away, was in the hospital, slowly dying, and they would read the books together, and it made her mom laugh, or his mom, his wife who was sick made her laugh as they read them together. That's a huge compliment. It's also so rewarding as an author, the time we put into these things, the sweat, the blood, the tears, the angst. When somebody appreciates it and can use your story to uplift someone in a time like that, that's very humbling and a huge honor, I think. So that's one. And of course, when they say, "You're my all-time favorite author," some people go, "Oh, thanks," but I kind of feel like, wow, that's really, it's a huge honor. I take it seriously, and it's important that I continue to work hard to deliver a good story so that I don't let them down, because I want to make them feel it was worth their time. So those are some of the more touching ones where it's always humbling. You write stories, you put them out there, and you just cross your fingers that everything works well and it goes, it's a positive experience, but you really never know. It's such a solitary world for most of us authors. It's one good thing about social media is we can get feedback. That can also be a bad thing. So it depends on how it goes. But yeah, I think that's been some of the most amazing things I've heard from people.
So, what is the message that you try to convey to your readers? I mean, you try, but sometimes it's like people don't get it, as you said about when you write about fun. People have to resonate with that, right?
Right.
So
I think the biggest thing, if you take the Deadwood Mystery Series, and some of my other books, there's a dark humor in there. In that first book, Nearly Departed in Deadwood, there's little girls that have gone missing. That is not a funny, light subject. It's not happy. It's serious. It's scary. It hits where many of us parents and even non-parents, it's a really frightening thing. But mixed in with that is a lot of humor and life. And I think that's it. I come from a divorced parents' family. It was not the easiest. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't the easiest. So I learned, and that happened when I was about 3. So from a very early age, I learned to use humor to handle the hard times in life, to laugh through, it hurts, you may cry, but to find a way to laugh still. And that's, I think, the lesson underneath so much of my stories are, this is a serious thing. This is deadly. This is scary. Let's laugh and push through it, because we have to push through this stuff in life. You can't escape. So finding a way to make it through. And for me, it's humor. And I'm trying to share with you a way to use humor to get through the hard times too, I guess.
So, as a writer, you write your book, people read that, you get the feedback and so on. Now it's like when you have given the book, whatever you had, you surrender. Here, that is what I have. Read it.
Right.
Right. They read it and they bring their feedback. What is the feeling that you get after people bring their feedbacks, or after you write the book? The feeling that you did it, you made it. Okay, that is the one. So
right,
the feeling that you get after that.
It's such a mix. After releasing a book, it's such an anxiety-filled, turbulent, exciting, happy, wincing time. You're going to get negative feedback. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like what you do. And that is always hard to take. And I learned long ago, way back when, that rejection of the first book by the marketing. That one, it wasn't easy, but I moved past it, and you're not going to please this person or these people. You just can't. So don't try. Um, but then the positive stuff comes, and you feel like, I did it. Oh, I did it. All that time, all those late nights, all that agonizing over each sentence or the words, it was worth it. I gave them this fun, hopefully smile inducing gift, and they liked it, and it was worth it. Let's do it again. And it's an addictive feeling when you do it, and you do it well, and you get positive. It makes you want to continue because it makes you feel good, that you've done this, and together, you enjoyed this thing. It's a real positive interaction, like when you meet somebody at a cafe or somewhere, and you're enjoying, it's a friend, and you have a good time together, and you walk away from that, you hug and say goodbye. It's you feel great, and that's, to me, really similar to what it feels like when you get positive feedback on a story. I will say, though, every time I start a new book, oh boy, it's hard. It's scary. I read the previous books in the series often, which can take time. And I will tell my husband, I don't think I can do this again. I don't know who was writing that last book, or where I pulled those words from, or that set. How did I do that? I don't think I can do it again. And he'll nod and say, you probably don't remember the last 30 times you've told me this, but you can do it again. Sit down and just get started. Just get some words on the page, and then it'll start coming. So I still, after this many books, I still struggle. I'm not a easy, right, flowing storyteller. That's not me. It's and finding the humor, especially, during COVID, and other people I know are not making it through the disease, all this sadness, all this angst and worry out there. It's really, pulling humor out has not been easy, but it takes reading certain books, watching some of my favorite movies, and finding that funny bone again and going forth.
Okay, so we're coming near the end of the interview. So, do you think you have something to say to our audience, something that you want to share with them? Let's say, or better to say, I like to use it. This is as an example. So you have the microphone now. So you have millions of people in front of you. Every camera is on you. Okay, like in
Yes.
they do when Dr. Fauci comes out. So everybody is waiting from him. So now
Right,
it's you.
right.
Now it's you. Okay. He always brings the bad news. Now it's you. What would you
So
say?
what would I say? Oh boy, that's tough. Well, hunker down. We've got each other. I feel very strongly that I appreciate traveling through this life with all those who are traveling it with us, me at the same time. We're all sharing these experiences, and it's tough. It'll knock you down. It's heartbreaking, but it can be wonderful and hilarious and great at the same time. So just, let's do this. Enjoy stories. Find yourself in stories. Find your happy place in movies or books or wherever, and just keep going. There's so much in life worth living for. So I guess, boy, that's a tough one. Now I don't want to. Next time I see Dr. Fauci standing there, I'll feel bad for him. I don't want to deliver the bad news like he always does, but I just hope that if you do take the time to try one of my stories, you go into it knowing that the goal is not to teach you how to get rid of all the books and clear out your life or clear the clutter, or to, it's not going to, they're not going to do that. But I'm hoping that they give you something to smile about, and to live another day and push forward through whatever is troubling you, or even, the fun things in life, keep going. So I guess that's it, all that together. Put together by someone who would write my speech and do a lot better than I just did, of course.
Thank you very much, Han. It was so good to have you in our show, and thank you very much for sharing your story and everything that you share with us, your humor as well. So
Well,
we really
thank
feel
you
the
for
show.
having me. Thanks for having me on here. And it's nice to meet you and everybody else that's listening.